In this video, we are going to work the following problem. We want to evaluate the integral. It's the definite integral from minus 3 pi over 4 to pi over 3 of minus sine x minus 3 cosine x dx. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to get an antiderivative for this function. So we can see that this function is built by subtracting these two functions. So through the difference rule, we know that we can just get an antiderivative of minus 6 sine x and then subtract off an antiderivative of minus 3 cosine x. Okay, so starting with minus 6 sine x, that is a constant multiple rule problem. I have a constant negative 6 times a function sine x. So the constant multiple rule says just rewrite the constant and then multiply it by an antiderivative of sine x. All right, and an antiderivative of sine x is minus cosine x. Then I'm going to subtract off an antiderivative of 3 cosine x. Again, using the constant multiple rule, I will rewrite the constant 3 and then multiply by an antiderivative of cosine x, which is sine x. And then using the fundamental theorem of calculus, I am going to evaluate that antiderivative from minus 3 pi over 4 to pi over 3. Okay. All right. Before I start plugging in those numbers, I am going to go ahead and simplify the antiderivative. To 6 cosine x minus 3 sine x, and again that's going to be evaluated from minus 3 pi over 4 to pi over 3. Okay, so I'm going to plug in the pi over 3. Doing that, I'll get 6 cosine pi over 3 minus 3 sine pi over 3. All right, and then I'm going to subtract off what I get when I plug in the minus 3 pi over 4. So that's going to be 6 cosine of minus 3 pi over 4 minus 3 sine minus 3 pi over 4. All right, and then it's just a matter of simplifying all this out. Okay, so the cosine of pi over 3, that would be a half. The sine of pi over 3 would be square root 3 over 2. All right, then I have 6 times the cosine of minus 3 pi over 4. So minus 3 pi over 4, that would be down in the third quadrant, right? So the cosine would be minus square root 2 over 2. And then minus 3. Same thing with minus 3 pi over 4 down in the third quadrant. And so its sign is going to be a negative number there. Okay. All right, and then it's just a matter of simplifying all this out. So first off is that 6 times a half is 3. Then I have minus 3 square root 3 over 2. Inside the parentheses, I have minus this 2. Goes into that 6 3 times, right? So I have minus 3 root 2. And then here I'll have plus 3 root 2 over 2. Like that. All right, keep continuing to combine. Inside the parentheses, I can combine these. In fact, I probably should have left this one as minus 6 over 2, right? And I'll probably go ahead and do that. I was just trying to simplify as much as possible, but really I need to combine these two. So this one would be 3 root 2 over 2. And here you can see they had the same denominator. So I should have left this one, and I'm going to rewrite it as 6 root 2, or it's minus 6 root 2 over 2. And that way I have a common denominator here, because, you know, simplifying that, it would have had to turn around and go back and get a common denominator. All right, so I have minus 6 root 2 over 2 plus 3 root 2 over 2. That's going to be minus 3 root 2 over 2, like so. And last step here is to just go ahead and simplify that out. I have minus a minus, right? So that's going to be a plus. And there is no more simplifying that, right? Because of the fact that none of these terms are like each other, right? This one has no root in it. This one has a root 3, so it can't be combined with this since this one doesn't have a root 3. This one has a root 2, right? So it can't be combined with any of those. And so that's it. That's the final answer on this one.